Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call our meeting to order. If you would all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Villaseñor.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Edmonds.
I am here.
Mayor McCall.
Here.
Councilmember Alex.
Here.
Councilmember Austin. Absent.
Thank you very much. And can I get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
I second it.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. Motion carries. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 5, presentations, and this is the Ari Larson tree dedication. I'm going to turn this over to staff.
Thank you. The individuals could not make it tonight who give the presentation. They asked me to speak on behalf of what the garden club would like to do was purchase a tree in Ari Larson's name and plant it in front of City Hall in between the 2 flagpoles on the lawn area out there. They would get part of it be paid for and hopefully get some donations for it. And then city staff would go ahead and plant it for them. We hold a ceremony later on once the tree is purchased, and we just want to make sure we get city council's approval to do that. Staff thinks it's a great idea to move forward, and we just wanted to get permission from city council to put a tree out there in Ari Larson's memory.
And Dave, who was it that wanted to do that?
It was the Fillmore Garden Club.
Oh, the garden club. Okay. Okay, very good. Okay. Everybody good with that?
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
I think it's great.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Actually, I think they may have already done it. I saw someone planting a tree, looked like a mulberry tree out there the other day.
No, this one here has not been done yet.
Oh,
We did replace a tree that died out here in front of City Hall, and replaced a tree out there earlier
nice.
this week,
it's a really pretty
or
tree.
last week.
Nice. Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to item 6, public comments, and I have 2 speaker cards. I will just remind you, you have 3 minutes, and I will run the timer, so when it turns to yellow, you have 30 seconds left. First speaker, Renee Swenson. Come on up.
Good evening, council members, city manager, everyone on television watching this. My name is Renee Swenson, and I own and operate 2 businesses in town.
Renee, you may want to bring your microphone closer.
Yeah. Yes.
There you go.
Thank you. My name is Renee Swenson, and I own 2 businesses in town. One is the Regen House Oddity and Antique Store, and the other one is the Regen Wellness Center and Yoga Studio. But tonight I am representing the Fillmore Association of Businesses, FAB. FAB would like to partner with the city to clean up downtown Central Avenue. There are broken planter boxes, shredded awnings, dirty trash cans, vacant buildings, and it's difficult to recruit new businesses to our town when we don't take care or invest in the maintenance. We'd like to propose a partnership with FAB and the city to restore our small town's main street to its original glory. We need updates to the storefronts with paint, awnings, planters, trees, signage, so that the downtown is more appealing for residents and tourists alike. Hopefully, this effort will rescue our town and draw future businesses to Fillmore. I look forward to discussing this further with each of you, or all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Renee. Okay. All right, we have one more speaker, Tim Holmgren.
Good evening, Council. Tim Holmgren, Fillmore resident. You know that I normally don't come up here and speak unless I've got a long, drawn-out thing written out to say, because it's hard for me to talk without having it word for word. But I'm just going to make a couple of really quick comments, and I feel I can do that without my crutch. There is a one small, short thing that I will want to read, but that will be something that someone sent me regarding one of your items. First of all, I wanted to say something about Ari Larson. Myself and a number of people that I'm here representing are very thankful that this is being brought forward. For myself, I've been here in town for about 12 and a half years, and almost from the first moment I was here, I've been working with Ari on just about everything, and she had her fingers in everything. She was a beautiful person, and I think of anyone that I've known, she deserves a tree. So I would be really happy to see that happen. Second, there's a number of people that I represent who want to support the decision, should you make it in closed session, to join the lawsuit against SB 9. And somebody sent me something to read regarding it. I'm going to presume that these facts are true, but here are a few reasons to support the city in joining the suit against the bill. 1, it overrides local zoning without an EIR. 2, by upzoning a parcel, it can increase the land's value, which will make it more expensive to sell or rent. 3, it doesn't take into consideration impact on schools, parks, water, sewer, public transportation, or other issues. And 4, planning departments will have to adhere to state policies. So we support you if that's your decision. And then I was going to add a third thing, because I just want to say that I support what Renee was talking about. I think that would be an awesome idea, helping to get the city cleaned up along the business district. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, those are the only speaker cards I have. I'm not sure if anybody else wishes to speak at public comment. If not, then I will move right along. Okay, we're going to move on then to item number 7, the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
I move that we be adopted.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll
I second.
Oh, go ahead, Simone.
Okay.
I second.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move right along to new business, and this is item 8A, and this is an award of contract for construction for the general installment of the Active Adult Center, and I will turn this over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Back in February of 2020, the city received $300,000 from the state of California OES as part of their public safety shutoff program, and that stands for Public Safety Power Shutoff Resiliency. And they give an allocation to a number of cities. We were fortunate to receive $300,000. We indicated that we put generators at the Active Adult Center and at the Veterans Memorial Building, as that tends to be the location to where whenever we have a disaster, we house people there, bring people there for meetings, for notifications, and when power goes out, obviously to have power available there. The time frame of the grant is from July 1st of 2019 through October 31st of 2022. It's anticipated, if we move forward with the project, to take 4 to 5 months to get the permits taken care of, and then an additional 50 days once the permits are approved. We would anticipate completing the project by September of 2022 as well. As mentioned earlier, we're identifying the Veterans Memorial Building and also the Active Adult Center. We did get out for bids, and we received 3 bids. The low bidder was Delta Electric LLC. Their bid came in at, rounding off, $449,000. The high bid came in at $1.5 million. So we're asking to give the low bid to Delta Electric. In addition to that, the project overall cost, we do project management, by contracting with, we'd like to contract with Wildan to oversee everything, do our final plans. The total project costs to $557,200, which is more than the allocated money from the state. We are recommending using part of the American Rescue Plan Act funds, around $257,000, to do both facilities at the same time to move them forward. So staff's recommendation is to allocate $557,200 to capital fund account code 4209 0031 389. That will include $300,000 of the OES grant, and also, if authorized, $257,200 from the American Rescue Plan funding. Approve and award a contract to Delta Electric for the installation of generator installation at the Active Adult Center and at the Fillmore Memorial Building. Approve a license agreement for maintenance and installation of generator with the Piru Fillmore Memorial District. The reason why we need to do that is they own the building, and to do work on their site, we need to do an agreement, and we already have an overall operating agreement with them to help maintain the facility, joint agreement between our two jurisdictions. And finally, approve and award a contract to Wilden Engineering in the amount of $72,700 to perform professional engineering services for design, bid, project management, construction management, inspection, and labor compliance to complete the project in compliance with the grant funding and public contract requirements. So those are our recommendation. The alternatives are to reject all bids and direct staff to do different documents and re-advertise for the contract. Allocate funds from the general fund reserve if you want to do both and not use ARP money. But staff is recommending using the ARPA funds to do both facilities. And at this time, I'd like to ask Roxanne Hughes, the engineer, to kind of give a quick overview of the actual project itself specifically, and not the overall details.
Good evening. Hi. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, so I put something up on the screen just to help make sure that everybody understands what we're talking about doing and where. And so the nuts and bolts of it are, we got, state grant funding through the Office of Emergency Services to bolster our resiliency in the city, and in particularly with respect to the public power shutoffs that Edison's been doing, and that happens, that really impacts our residency here in Fillmore, and if we're having a power shutoff at the same time that we're having an emergency, but that's what resiliency is all about. So that's the heart of the project, is to take two places in town that we often use when we have a shelter in place or some kind of public emergency going on, which are the Veterans Memorial District and the Veterans Memorial Building, which is owned by the Veterans Memorial District, or the Piru Fillmore District, and the Active Adult Center. So the picture that I have up on the screen right now is the Veterans Memorial site. The plans and specs that we prepared and bid this is like the site plan location. So if you're familiar, I think most people are familiar with the Veterans Memorial Building on the corner of 2nd Street and Shields Drive. If you were to enter off Shields Drive and go behind the building to the north is where we want to put the installation. And so it's composed of two parts. One is going to be like a little, it's a CMU block wall building that will have treatment on the outside of it to architecturally match the building so that it looks similar. That is a roofed and gated structure that the generator will be inside. So it's going to be protected from the weather. It's going to be interior to a little block building. And then outside of that is the propane tank on a pad for the propane tank. And so you'll see the little, off the top of the big structure is a littler structure, and around the propane tank pad, we're putting a chain link fence and a gate to keep the propane tank from being messed with. And so each of your installations have those two components, because we at first wanted to put the propane tank in the building with the generator, and then we're told there's a variety of reasons why you cannot do that. So we were like, oh, that's good to know once we engaged with our designers that do this for a living. And so this is the Veterans Memorial Building site. Were there any questions about this site? Okay. And then the other side I have is the Active Adult Center. And so in this little snip, you see Santa Clara Street on the bottom, because the Active Adult Center is right there off Santa Clara. And at the top of the screen, that's the bike path, right? And so right alongside, there's that open dirt lot. And again, we're going to build a little block wall building, and this time the door is going to open from the generator room down towards Santa Clara Street. And then behind it, there'll be a pad with a propane tank on it that has chain link fence around it that will be visible from the bike path side. And so that is the layout for the Active Adult Center. And so the generators will be purchased, installed. The contractor needs to get all permitting in place. We know that the Veterans Memorial Site, because of its proximity to the school, will have a lot more environmental permitting. They're going to have to, look at noise and different things that the Active Adult Center won't have a similar context. So we expect that permitting to be a longer process at the Veterans Memorial Building. But we've built the project schedule to where we can get this award of contract done, and then he can make the material submittals, get the generators ordered, because it takes about 3 months to get anything of that nature, the gen sets. And then once he has those ordered and a delivery date scheduled, then we can back into when he'll actually begin construction, because he can get everything built while he's waiting for the generators to arrive. And so we're feeling comfortable that with this award in January, we'll be able to get everything built well in time prior to the grant deadline of October of this year. And we considered, should we just do one site instead of the other, given that it's costing more. Everything's costing more these days. When I did the bid analysis, you can see the spread, like it's 1.3 million to, and there's so much uncertainty. The market's been very volatile, and so I think that if we wait, it's only getting more volatile. So we looked at, Dave said, well, it's eligible for ARP funds. Maybe we could leverage this OES grant and get both buildings, and this would be the best project that we could do to improve our resiliency for emergencies here in the town of Fillmore. So those are the details I wanted to share with you, and I'm available for questions.
Any questions for staff? Lynn, go ahead.
I have quite a few. Thank you for clearing it up about the fence. I couldn't understand why we needed a fence when the building will be surrounded, and I didn't realize about the propane, so that was helpful.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
In February, we'll have a meeting where we'll be talking and prioritizing the monies for the ARP funds. And so with the $300,000, we could start with the memorial building, and then we could hold in arrears for just 2 or 3 weeks as we discuss and prioritize the other funding. It's clear that we need to have generators. It would have been a nice place to go and cook my turkey on Thanksgiving. So, it's clear that we do need that. And in the time I've been here, we've had multiple times where half the city was evacuated, and then the other half of the city was evacuated. And so it's important to have. Mm-hmm. But the memorial building, the Memorial District, also has received a very large grant. And it hasn't been approved yet, but it has been designated for them. And if it's at all possible for them to do the improvements that they want to do, because we all know they need lots of improvements, and also help pay for this, I think we should propose that so that it could be a joint application for it. So my recommendation is that we hold off on the Active Adult Center until we actually talk about the monies and do a prioritization for those monies. And then we hold the fact that the memorial building we will keep very strongly, because it's the larger of the two facilities with the most facilities available. So those are my thoughts.
Can you clarify? You had said that the Memorial Center got a grant, mm-hmm. but you want to hold the Active Adult Center?
Okay, I need to make that more clear. Huh?
Yeah, it was not clear.
Okay, so the money that we would have to use the ARP monies in order to do both the Active Adult Center and the Memorial Building. But we have the $300,000, which we could then just designate it for the Memorial Building, and know that hopefully it won't cost that much, because it says $257,000. But if hold the discussion on the Active Adult Center until we have the whole prioritization of the use of monies next month, because that'll be our whole meeting, will be on that. So I agree with you, we need to do this as quickly as possible, but we could then notify the Dell Electric, who are proposing to get the contract, that they have the contract and to please look forward to having the money to do it. But at this point, just the memorial building is scheduled.
But
And
Lynn,
the second is the grant,
who's getting the grant?
the memorial district.
So why are we doing the Memorial District if they're getting a grant?
Well, because they haven't actually gotten it yet. It's just been, it's been approved, but it hasn't been totally approved or
Yeah,
something.
I've been consulting with the Memorial District people and the ones that are actively pursuing that grant and been providing cost estimates and
Right.
lists of costs. The generator is not one of the items that's listed in that grant scope of work because it was folding in with the OES grant that we already got. It wasn't an ask, and they have like a lot more improvements than they have funding. And so I've seen the list of improvements that they're trying to get like around $1 million, and it's not approved yet. But that's in addition to the generator that the city's installing, right? The way the conversation is right now. Because they need, like you say, there's so many needs on that
Right.
building. And this was just, we're doing the generator, you're doing, and in fact, I had my initial conversation was, if we start building the generator, does it get in the way of them getting a grant approval for other work? And we got all that worked out and talked to all the people that hold the purse strings with the grants, and we're told, yes, we could move forward with building the generator, and then after the fact, they could do the stuff because it's not on the building. And so we've been coordinating on a high level, but it has not been a conversation to ask them to be redundant with our grant and give us money to do the generator project. So and Dave's been involved in those conversations. So that would be an about fit, like the agreement that's before you for approval tonight that's signed by the board. It went to the Veterans Memorial Board as an item saying that the city's going to fund and install a generator and then operate and maintain it on your property, and that's how that agreement is written as well. And it doesn't have any cost from them to us. They're just allowing us to install it, funded by the OES or combination of ARP. So that's my initial thoughts on that, is that that hasn't been the conversation driven by staff and between the city management and the Veterans Memorial Board so far. And then secondly, as far as just award of contract procedures go, I either need to award the whole contract or a part of the contract, which I can split it. But there's, you lose efficiency because if the owner orders one gen set now instead of two, and then there'll be it would be a different cost to add a building back on later. So I don't know if what you're saying is we'll allocate the ARP funds tonight for the award of contract, but then when you look at what you want to do, you may identify a different funding source, and because you can always change the funding source among yourselves as long as you're agreeing to award the contract with both buildings and fund it fully. Right now you can say we'll ear tag ARP funds, but we're not going to get it built and invoiced for another 6 months. So by the time we write the check, if you come up with a different funding source and want to swap out revenues in the background, it wouldn't affect the award of contract as long as you're going to not award one of the buildings.
What I question is, all of that work was done prior to the approval of the city council.
What was?
So all the work that you're talking about was done prior to us saying that we wanted to do this. That we approved it. So it's almost as if it's already been done.
It's not done.
Okay.
Those are the conversations. I'm just saying that you, as the city council, you're saying pause the project, go
No.
back and have a different conversation with the Veterans Memorial District, right?
Well, I'm
Or,
saying that
you
that
are.
is
I don't know if the full
yeah,
council
I'm saying
is.
that is a possibility, that we could ask them if there's any money from that large grant that they got or that they are proposing to get. If there's anything there that could help us with this. That's one aspect. The other is that I don't want to stop it at all. We need to progress. But I'd like to make sure we have the conversation on the funding for the ARP before we already start to disperse the monies. And so I think we could move ahead with the $300,000 easily. And in 2 weeks, we're meeting again, and we could discuss, or next month, we could then discuss that. And by then, we can make that decision. Those are my recommendations.
Christina, did you have comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, Lynn, you weren't saying that the two, the Memorial Building and the Active Adult Center were broken down into two separate amounts. Like, there's nowhere in our fund, there's nowhere in the report that says this is how much Memorial Building would cost versus this is how much Active Adult Center. It's all together, right?
It's in the bid.
Oh, it's
The
in
bid's
bid.
attached
Okay.
to the staff
Okay,
report.
okay. I wasn't sure where you got your numbers from. Yeah, no, my question on it is not at all on the need for it, nor on going forward, but I was noticing, I think in the question and answer, and I think it got clarified, but I just wanted to hear from you too about the delays and the getting the gensets and the materials, and we all know the costs. And basically, on that October 22 date, is that project completion date, or how can you explain to me that the city is ensuring that if this money goes forward and there are delays, that that we're not going to pass those deadlines?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's a 50 working day schedule, and that's generous, right? So the main lead times, we've talked to the contractor and worked it out on what the delivery schedules is and what the permitting schedule is, and made whatever can be in parallel. But if we pull the trigger, award the contract, begin the permitting, and acquire the gensets, and let's say they're supposed to deliver this date and then they don't, and then they don't, and then they don't, and you come up against a deadline, we'll be doing grant reporting to the grant administrators, and if you can show in good faith that you're in the middle of a project, they won't pull the plug on your funding. You just have to be in communication, the way that all of those grant programs run. Yeah, it's a good question.
So I have a question for Dave. So the alternatives is number 2, allocate funding from the general fund reserve in lieu of using ARP funds. So that's an alternative to using the ARP funds. So how would that impact the general fund reserve? And
You'd be reducing it by the $257,000. That's why staff looked at both of them. We have an opportunity to use the rescue funds to do this. That's why we're recommending doing both. If we didn't have the money to do both of them, we'd be recommending the Memorial Building. And then if you guys wanted to do two, add in money from the reserves to add in the Active Adult Center. But since there is funding available to do it, that's why staff is recommending to move forward with doing both buildings. We have the senior center down there. It's used all the time right now. The Southern California Edison, they come out there when they shut power off to charge people's batteries and everything else as well. So that's why staff feels important to actually do both at the same time. We will be talking about the ARP funding on terms at the next meeting. I think the discussion where staff's going to try to lead, it's not going to be project specific. Reason being, new rules came out today, and they go into effect April 1st. And these rules allow governments now to spend money on general government services, roads, parks, everything we had talked about that you could not use it beforehand. And we can go in there and get it and bring it in, and then it's basically going into your general fund, and then you just have to do a streamlining reporting process. So it's a lot more flexibility for local communities to use ARP money. We'll give a breakdown at the next council meeting to get some guidance in which direction council wants to go with that area.
so how much would it impact this project if we were to push this to the decision to the next city council meeting? Is that possible? I mean, just because we are having a lengthy discussion, I'm anticipating a lengthy discussion about what to do with these ARP funds, and how much would the bid go up? Or, I mean, 2 weeks, I know with cost of materials and inflation and everything, things are going up, but I mean, it's an option for us, you know, to push it for 2 weeks.
So the bids were opened in September, and then due to a variety of things, including the coordination with the Veterans Memorial District to get the agreement in place and make sure and decide whether or not we had additional funding or not additional funding, all of that was going on. And so the contractor the bid's good for 60 days. And to bring it for you tonight, I have been in constant communication with the contractor saying, you know, it's not going to go in December, it's going to go in January. And so it would be, I would need to be able to verify with the contractor whether or not he's okay with another month. But the other thing is that every time we move it down, the hard deadline of October is looming, and we're getting closer and closer to that. And so he's ready to submit materials and order the gen sets, because that's the biggest concern, is getting the generators ordered and a purchase order for them and knowing the delivery date. You're not talking about it, you're talking about 2 more weeks and bring this item back and know what to do with it. I would just have to verify with the contractor. I think he would be amenable to that. It's just 2 more weeks of not having them ordered, so that would factor in. I think he would probably hold it, but I would have to confirm.
Yeah.
So one of the things for me, I understand that, we have 2 community buildings in town. That's basically the only game in town. We've got the Active Adult Center, where a lot of our seniors go. They get their meals there. That's our cooling center. That's a very critical building for me, far more critical than the Memorial Building. I understand the need for the Memorial Building, but for me, I think that the Active Adult Center needs to be something that's a lot more used, and it's a lot more used by our seniors, and I think that's really important. So one in lieu of the other. I'd like to see us move forward on something. We can't just keep holding. I work in an industry where you hold for a week and you're 3 more months out on obtaining, goods. That's just how things are working. Let's see. How do I say this? So the Memorial Building is important, but I know that they've had a lot of changes in the way they operate their own business practices. They've kind of shut the city out on a lot of different, things, recreation options and opportunities. That's been a real rub for me. So for myself, if we had to spend this kind of money, I would like it to go to a place that we control, a place that's already being used, a place that, we have the final authority of how things are going to happen. And to me, the Active Adult Center is that building. I'm not saying that, again, don't take this wrong, I'm not saying that the Memorial Building isn't important. It is important. But if this is an issue to where this council isn't going to take $300,000 in a grant that's being given to us, we don't get grants. We never get grants. So, to just keep kicking the can down the road and hoping that we're going to be able to do something, I would say take the $300,000 and put it towards the Active Adult Center. And if we want to move forward and bring back ARP funds, then hold on the Memorial Building and bring it back as a discussion at that point. So for you, I guess what you would need to do is talk with the contractor, see, if they're willing to hold the funds and split it, move on one now and possibly move on the other later based on funding.
So I had, originally when we opened the bids and we didn't have enough for the full amount, I did have the conversation about doing one or the other and not both. And he was able to hold the bids independently, as far as that goes. And so I think there is option to say, let's move forward with the Active Adult Center, and we'll have the conversation about the AARP and everything else, and not award the Memorial Building until another meeting. And he wouldn't be able to get both gen sets ordered, but we could probably still do that, and I would give only the award of contract would be reduced to just the Active Adult Center and related items, and I would reduce the other service costs accordingly to get within budget, and then tell him we may add the, by change order, separate contract, add the Memorial Building later. That is, I think, an option, definitely. I had already spoken initially back in September, October. Those were my conversations. I think we can only do one building or than the other. And then the city manager's office started looking at other funding sources and talking to the Veterans Memorial and said, I think we can move forward with both. So we've talked about all that. and the contractor has been wonderful and very good to work with, and is, able to do it in 2 separate contracts if needed.
Okay, Lynn.
I would like to see both of them done. I don't know what the will of the city council is. I do agree with Diane as far as the fact that Active Adult Center is under our control and the Memorial Building is not. And we do a lot for the Memorial Building. And we're happy to do that because it's an essential part of our city. But they are getting a huge grant. But I would like to see them get a generator, so I'm talking every which way around the circle. And do you think it would be possible to have us go ahead and approve the total funding, but not say where it's coming from until we have our meeting? You can't decide that, David?
I mean, I wouldn't do, I think what you guys are talking about tonight in terms of, if you want to have a discussion about, further funding of this, I would recommend you move forward with the Active Adult Center, because that is a city building,
Okay.
and moving forward. And then just move that be the project under the
Okay.
$300,000. And then have a discussion, do we want to do anything with the memorial building or not, based upon the ARP money. You may say, we don't want to do it, we'll wait for something else down the line and use the ARP money for something else. But if you're going to have a discussion to push it off, I'd recommend do the building that we own.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we control, get that one taken care of. What I would hate to see is that we approve one of them, don't come back to our building, say, no, we don't want to do it. But we're, like you're saying, you're funding another building that's very key to the resiliency issues out here.
Yeah.
But in terms of if we have to come back and it doesn't get funded, I'd much rather have another agency's building not get funded versus ours.
Yes.
Put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hearing that, and it sounds like something that I agree with. And then also, when you mentioned about the sound issue or nearest of school issue, that could be another wrinkle that may come up with the memorial building. So it's even further reason to maybe do that.
Well, if there's no power, then they're not going to care because they're not going to be there. Right? I mean, isn't that the intent? Okay, so does someone want to make a motion? Is there more discussion?
So I will make a motion to move forward on the generator at the adult center. And we will decide with ARP funds at the Veterans Building down the road.
Okay. I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, very good. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roxanne.
Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to item number 8B, and this is authorizing payment request number 7 to Hearthstone Multi-Asset Entity. And I'll turn that over to staff.
Mayor, I have a little conflict because I live out there in the area, so I just want to recuse myself so there's no misunderstanding.
Got it?
And I as well will recuse myself
we have a
as I live in the
We do, we
area.
have a quorum, we're good.
I don't see much conversation about this one. It's pretty cut and dry.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So the item before you is there's been a request for a payment on the from Hearthstone, the developer of the Heritage Valley subdivision. Excuse me. So the hold on a second. So the request is for 1.7. Oops, sorry. Thank you. And it's for the the levies. The whole development contract was split into the various sections or components. The the listing of the components, the major components were the levees, the parks, the roundabouts, and the channel, the control channel. The levees have been were constructed since probably in the very beginning, from 2008 or something like that. And my understanding is they're completed and ready to be turned over to the city. There was this payment request had been submitted back since 2012, and due to various items that weren't probably submitted at that time with the payment request, they weren't approved. And so they've requested for payment again and resubmitted with additional supporting information. Will then had been hired to audit the payment request, and so they went ahead and approved this payment request that is before you tonight. And so we're recommending that it be approved for payment, and there is it's subject to there's retentions that are still the contract allows that we still retain a portion of the payment until everything is finalized. And so we'll have a checklist to go by to release those retentions. But generally, the request is to approve the 1.7 million, and it's basically to pay for that, the whole levee construction. Are there any questions?
Any questions for staff?
No questions. No questions.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to have it be approved per the recommendation, and that we withhold the 10% retention amount prior to waiting for the final approval, but that we go ahead and approve it with that as recommended.
Okay, so no changes, Lynn.
No changes to the
No
report
changes.
staff.
Okay, any second?
I'll second.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Any opposed? Okay, perfect. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ralph.
Thank you so much. You can let them know.
Oh, they just left.
Okay, very good. With that, we are going to move on to item 8C. This is the street name to recognize Max Pena. And I'll turn this over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. If you recall at the December 14th City Council meeting, Duke Bradbury, the Assistant Sheriff Chris Dunn, and Jessica Pena, they gave presentations regarding Max Pena and asked if the city would rename a street, basically the alley behind the police station, in honor of Max Pena and his years of service to the community, over 50 years, and also 35 years of those working in the police department for Fillmore and also the sheriff's department. You know, he established a storefront for us. He was the Citizen of the Year in 1992. He made all kinds of wonderful law enforcement contributions to the community. Received the Medal of Valor as well. So we are officially asking the City Council to officially agree to do that. The city will then reach out and work with the county and see if we can't get their sheriff's logo and also put the old City of Fillmore police logo on the street sign, have both out there. The Max Pena Alley, Max Pena Way, work with the family on the naming. Then we will set up a dedication, work with the family to make sure that they can come out here, work with the Sheriff's Department, and put a nice presentation of Max's honor, his family's honor, out there next to the police station. So tonight we're looking for your approval. We anticipate around $400 for the street signs, but obviously we can spend more if we have to. So I want to get your permission to move forward with that.
Okay, any questions?
I don't think there's any question at all about this moving ahead. Max grew up in Lompoc, and he was sure that he and I were in the same third grade class, which was fun because I wasn't there in the third grade, but he kept telling me that he'd seen me there, so therefore I was there. And I would like to make the motion that we approve Max Pena's sign for the Sheriff's Department by the building there.
Very good. I have a motion on the table. Any other comments or a second?
I'll comment and I'll second and say that this is a wonderful thing for Max, and I'm so glad that for generations to come that sign will be here and people will ask who Max Pena was, and you know, as the story keeps going, that we'll be able to say what a wonderful citizen and law enforcement officer he was for the city of Fillmore. So I'm looking forward to this. Thank you.
And was that a second as well?
Yes, it was a second.
Very good. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Motion carries. And I do want to just thank the family for coming a second time. I know your dedication to Max is amazing, and what a wonderful man, what a wonderful family. I mean, I've known the Pena family and various members throughout all these many years that I've been a resident, and everybody just sinks in and serves the community, and just it's truly amazing, and I really thank every one of you, and really happy to do this. So really looking forward to the day that we can unveil the sign and it'll be done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to item number 8D, and this is a public hearing, so I'll just mention that real quick. And this is for the annexation of the Mountain View Apartments, and I will turn this over to staff. Actually, I'm going to open the public hearing so that your comments are part of it.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Good evening. This is the public hearing portion of the annexation of the Mountain View Apartments project located at 210 to 220 Santa Clara Street into the Landscape Lighting and Assessment District Number 2. This annexation will allow the city to collect assessments from the property owner to do long-term maintenance on the lights. You'll recall that this process started on November 9th of last year when you adopted resolutions initiating the annexation process, preliminarily approving the engineer's report, and setting a public hearing for tonight. Between that time and today, a ballot and notification of the assessment levy was mailed to that property owner. The assessment is still at $2,022, and it's adjusted based on a consumer price index, or 3%. The ballot concludes this process. There was just one ballot. We'll be opening it shortly. If the ballot confirms the annexation or approves the annexation, then it will take effect. If it protests the annexation, then the assessment cannot be levied. Staff's recommendations are, at the close of this public hearing, you'll direct City Clerk to count the ballot. And our recommendation is to adopt Resolution 3857 confirming the results of the ballot. If that ballot approves the assessment, we then recommend that you adopt Resolution 3858 approving the annexation and levy of assessments. I'm here for any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? No questions. Okay, so with that, is there any members of the community that wish to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and instruct you to please count those ballots.
The one ballot.
The one ballot.
I'm going to open it. Just making it clear.
This is very award ceremony-ish.
So the ballot has yes in favor of the new assessment. There's only one ballot, so you could see it here.
Very good.
It is in favor, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Erica. Okay, so with that, we do have a positive ballot response. So with that, do I have someone who is willing to make a motion?
I so move.
Okay. Do we need to read the numbers? No? Okay, so very good. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Tiffany, do we need to do these separately? Okay, so Lynn, that is for your adopting resolution, both number 22-3857 and 223858.
Absolutely.
Very good. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Let me go back here. Okay, so we're going to move on to item number 8E, and this is the Development Impact Fee and Annual 5-Year Report and Findings for, we'll turn this over to staff, let them explain what this was for. It's unexpended fees.
Okay, so this item is a couple of things that we're requesting. That the council received the report that we prepared and are submitting to you, and also that you adopt resolution number 22-3855. And the resolution is the resolution requests that we have the continued use of $2,074,994 of the development fees. So basically the law that allows development impact fees requires that cities prepare an annual report, and in that annual report you present information that's specifically required. That's one part of the report. The other portion of the report is it requires you to take a look at your history, basically, of what you've collected and received over the years. Look back to 5 years ago, and at that 5 years ago point, you have to determine if you have any monies that you have collected from before then, and if you haven't used them, then you have to determine if you still need them for future projects, and so that's kind of where what we're reporting in the report. So this afternoon I sent an additional table that we added to the report that had not been included, and that's a necessary part of the report, so we need to incorporate it. And that's the beginning fund balances and ending fund balances, and so I summarized the revenues and expenses that were reported in other tables in the report. And so we'll include that in the final report. On the 5-year portion of the report, so we've determined, again, the $2 million, and there's a schedule in the staff report that itemizes by each of the funds, each of the fees, how much we're asking you to approve to continue to use for future projects. If I may, on the schedule that's in the staff report, you have to look at the projects that were approved in the development fee, the fees that were approved. And so basically, we're working with a 2019 study, and that's when the city updated the fees from before. And those are the fees that we're charging and reporting in the report. And in that 2019 study, there was projects that were identified that the city needed as development occurred. And so those, when you look at the funds left or not spent from 5 years ago, you have to consider whether you still need the money to meet those projects that were identified in the 2019 report. So that the schedule that's in the staff report, that's basically what it's showing. For the fees where we do have money from 5 years ago, we looked at the projects that were identified in the study and whether we still need to use the money. And so we're recommending that we do, and that the council approve the resolution to allow us to use the money going forward.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions for staff?
Okay, I do. I have a question. Thank you, Ruel, for the report and for the explanation. Appreciate it. I just want a little bit of clarity again on the staff report table, and maybe it's in the email that you sent to us. I didn't get a chance to read it, but just so that I'm clear, right, on page 126? Okay.
What table is that? Because I'm working off a different.
This is the table that is in the body of the staff report.
Is it table 6?
Is it table 6?
It's not labeled.
It's not labeled. It's called
Not-
fees
not the one in
collected
the
over
staff
5
report.
years
Okay.
prior to 6/30/21.
Okay.
It's on the last page of the staff report.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Okay. The two columns in the middle, okay, I understand that the one that we're talking about right now, approving by resolution, is the $2,074,994 total, right?
Right.
The column next to it, and that was, again, the fees, the development impact fees unexpended for 5 years prior to 6/30/21. The next column over, the one that's, it kind of says the same thing, but it has the different amount. Like, for example, the first row, Heritage Valley Parks and Parks Fire Substation, the $338,000, is that money that was collected even before that, going 5 years
No.
back? Okay, I just wanted
No,
to see what that column was.
Yeah. That column is the last 5 years.
It is the last 5
Going
years.
back from 6/30/21,
Okay,
from June 30, 21, 5 years back.
Okay.
So for a 5-year period, that's how much we've
the
collected, and if there was any money spent, it's net of what was collected and spent.
Okay.
And so the second column
And the second column, the
is
86,000, for example.
what we're required to approve to continue to use. The third column, we're still, we still don't have to basically reapprove the fees. We're still in that
Okay.
5-year period.
Okay.
And so those two reduced from the first column is basically the money we still need to collect going forward to
Right.
accomplish the projects.
Okay. So I guess my next question then, and again, just taking the first row, for example, the fire substation, of the 600,000 that was projected that we're trying to, there's a project here and we have development impact fees, of that 600K, we do have some amounts that have been spent? Or we're still basically trying to raise up to get to that 600K, and we have 175,000 more to go?
That's
That's basically it. And is that the same for all of them? Just so that for example, or here and there, do we use some funds for different things?
No, there's been some use of the monies prior to 5 years ago.
Okay.
And even, and even during this last
Even this
5-year
time.
period.
Okay.
For instance,
For things.
in the report,
Yeah.
the last 2 years, we've used monies to pay for debt service of the sewer fund.
Okay. Okay.
So that was part of the 2019 report. That was one of the allowed items.
Okay.
And so we've used it for that. But I don't know exactly what the money was used for, like before 2015 or
Right.
back then.
Okay.
But there has been some use of funds, of the funds.
Okay. All right, that's helpful. Thank you for helping me.
So I have a quick question. I'm kind of looking at this as kind of a housekeeping item, if you will. Or do we need to file this with someone in order, above, at a state level or at a higher level in order to maintain our funds?
No, it's only to be filed with the city. It has to be made.
Interrupt that. Actually, sorry. As of January of this year, there is a new state law that does require it to be on the website.
Right, because I think we talked about that at the last council meeting.
Yeah,
So this is
previously it
part of
was
that.
just an internal report, but
Okay.
now we will be required to put it on the website. So
Okay.
Erica and Dave and Roel and everyone, they're having a meeting on Friday to get it all up there.
Okay, and that was kind of where I was heading with the whole thing, because I know a lot of these have come up in the past, and they've kind of been housekeeping items, so just want to make sure. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay, all right, so I will go with number 1. This is receive and file, and we also have a second recommended item. Does anybody want to make a motion on that?
Okay, I'll make that motion to adopt Resolution 22-3855.
Very good. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your report.
Yes.
Okay, so with that, we are going to move on to item number 9, committee, commission, and board reports. Anyone have anything?
Sure. My quick board report is that the groundwater sustainability plan for Piru and Fillmore basins was adopted by the board at our last meeting, and now we're going to move forward with implementation. And so I'll keep the city council posted. Thank you.
Okay.
I have 2 reports, one for Air Pollution Control Board. They still are grants available if you're interested in getting electric vehicles for your organizations or your farm or whatever. So please let people know, because we need to use that money. It shouldn't all go to large areas, large population areas. The van pool that VCTC organizes statewide, it's out of Sacramento, and it is now purchasing electric vehicles for the van pool. We have 148 that are now being used in Ventura County. They're not all for agricultural workers. Some of them are for large companies that choose to have a van pool. And VCTC has approved $300 that'll come to Fillmore to help maintain roads.
$300?
300,000.
Oh. What?
300 will just do like one pebble. So 300,000 for the roads, which is exciting. And so that should be coming soon. They dispersed the money throughout. They got a large amount for the county, and they dispersed it through all the cities per your population. And Ojai and Fillmore have smaller populations and really don't deserve that much, but they knew that the money that we would get wouldn't get us anything, and so they gave us more money, which is very kind of them, in order to be able to do something with the 300,000. So I'm excited about fixing, I hope, Sespe Boulevard, because my little car is bouncing all around over there. So, and that's it.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to item 10, City Council reports, recommendations, and comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment, and basically it's just a thank you for city staff, just for all the work that you do and hanging in there to everybody here at City Hall, and our police and our first responders during this tough time that we just continue to be through. And if I can just speak, to the community, please continue to be vigilant and hang in there and follow best practices, and just really encourage you to go to vcrecovers.org for all the information you need for testing, for vaccinations, for boosters, and just continue to look after each other. Thank you.
To follow up on that, I went today at 11:30 to the middle school, and there was no one in front of me, and I got a test. It was just amazing. Just drove up. I was coming from Ventura, and at the mall, there must have been 40 cars waiting for the tests. And so I said, I'm not going to go there, and I came here, and I just drove right up. So apparently their hours used to be 12 o'clock, and people don't know. So if you can go before 12 o'clock, I think you have a chance of just zipping right in. I would like to talk about giving the planning department a little more discretion in looking at small businesses, and I spoke with our city manager about that, and we're moving ahead on that so that we can have a quicker response and give them a little more ability to work out within their ability and their intelligence. I continue to, this is an issue that clearly is very strong, very important to me. If we were in another country, and let's say we all spoke German, and the meetings were in German, and you and I don't speak German, would we come to a city council meeting if all they had was an agenda that said when you can do public comment and a translation or interpretation at that time only? I would doubt if we would even show up, because it doesn't show that you care. So I would like to propose again that we do a better job of interpretation, and this will be for another agenda item, but I would like to see us discuss that. And perhaps that would be something we would need to discuss when we're talking about the ARP funds. I don't know. And I would like to set the date, but clearly we have it for the ARP. And that was it. That's all I have.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I want to make a couple comments. One, I'm really glad that we decided to do the generator at the adult center because it's necessary, it's needed for emergencies. But I did want to note that one of the reasons why we would need 2 generators goes back to our last city council meeting regarding Edison shutting down the power arbitrarily, which is something that we still are hoping that Edison will come in and address. That's really important for our community. We got a lot, I personally got emails and letters regarding that, and people are very happy to know that we are bringing them in and going to be asking them questions. So just wanted to say that. And then the other thing that I've noted, obviously I'm new to the city, and what I really want to compliment the city, the residents, city council members, staff, for honoring Ari with the tree, right? It's very small town America, really, when you take care of your own and honor your own. 2 things we did tonight. We honored Ari Larson with deciding to plant the tree, and we also honored Max Pina with the signs. And that is, I'm so thankful to be in a small town where we're continuing that kind of tradition, because it, the family was here, and it really makes the family feel like they're loved by the community. So thank you for doing that, and I'm just happy to be here.
Very good. Thank you. So we're going to move on to item 11, City Manager's Report.
There were a couple of items tonight. We have a couple of open full-time positions we're recruiting for right now, a fiscal assistant position and also an accounting supervisor. We're also recruiting just for a couple of advisory panels, Citizens Transportation Advisory Committee, And the Social Services Transportation Advisory Committee, CTAC and SSTAC, those would be appointments by City Council. Looking to also receive applications for Parks Recreation Commissioners. And the Ventura County Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council. We have applications online or city website. Or you can also call Erica Herrera at 805-946-1712. Updating information on those items there. Also want to make City Council aware of that we will be having on our next agenda in January a discussion of the downtown business district and Central Avenue, different ideas in terms of what we possibly could do as a city overall. In the meantime, we have started back up with the sidewalk cleaning once a week. We'll start down on Fridays. We're taking a look at redoing, painting some of the planters out there, getting that fresh and paint. Also taking a look at the garbage cans out there, freshen those up already. And then the final thing we'll be bringing back for City Council. I'm getting a quote on what it's going to cost to repaint the downtown area and around City Hall in terms of the handicap parking spaces, the green spaces, the red lines as well, to take that care of that. Also the various stop bars in the downtown are kind of faded out. So we'll bring that back for City Council. We think that'll be a very good beginning to freshen up the area. You'll see a visual impression. You'll also notice we did put up new signs by the railroad crossing. This bright yellow notifying people that people are coming across the bike path there. So that's been installed as well. Southern California Edison, we've got in contact with their representatives. Currently, right now, we're scheduling them to come out February 22nd. Currently, they're not allowed to come to public meetings due to health and safety protocols. I find that very interesting, but we'll see them hopefully on February 22nd. If they still have the same policy, then we'll adjust it at that point in time. But we have not forgotten it. It is scheduled right now for that time frame. And then again, we'll be talking about the American Rescue Plan Act funds at the next council meeting as well. And that's all I have for tonight.
Okay.
Dave, I didn't hear all of the commissions that are open. Did you also include the two that are open for the Ventura County Transportation Commission Advisory Committee? Yes. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to go to our last item here, and this is closed session. Tonight we have two items in closed session. One is conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation, and the second is a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation. So we're going to recess for that right now, and once we are wrapped up, we'll come back with you and report out for the evening. So thank you, and we'll be back. I'm ready. Okay. All right. Thanks for holding for us. Council's back from closed session. We were updated, and there's no reportable action this evening. So I will adjourn our meeting to the next regular meeting of January 25th, right here in City Hall at 6:30 p.m. Good night.
Thank you.